All right, so it's time for some INDIO action. So, of course, as usual, this is due tomorrow, due yesterday. So, can't make it fast enough. So, I'm going to do a quick overview of what's going on, and then I'll, break it down. So, we got two sets. They're 6 foot tall, and but there's three things going on with both sets. So, how it's going to work is these letters are fabricated 6 foot tall, 12 inches deep, and so they're supposed to get stuck to sticks. You're going to have 2x2 at some point. So right now we're going to focus on getting the letters done as fast as possible. And then there's going to be multiple flavors of how these mount. So one set is supposed to go in the ground on a slab in a park. And then somewhere close to that is going to be a CMU block wall that the same sticks will get applied to the wall, to the back, and the other set will then stick up above that, behind a stage, sort of like, hey, it's INDIO in a big block. So there's those two sets. That's what we got. Now, somebody had the bright idea of like, well, what if we take the one set from the park that's in the grass on the slab and we create some sort of like a blocking sled, right, from NFL, from your football days. And it's a temporary thing that's 8 feet tall. And that way it could be at Coachella Fest. Well, that's the problem is Coachella Fest is like, tomorrow. So now it's panic. So that's why it's up. So, I'm hustling to get this done. So I focused on the O because it's going to be the sort of the toughest to make because it's round. It got the curves and all that because, harken back to MedMen. And also it's a way to draw first blood, whatever analogy, metaphor you want to use. We got to just get a score on the board. So we'll get started on this, and then you guys can get your eye in. But you can see where the mounting is all going to be exactly the same. So all these sticks are identical. So as long as you can get this O cracking and everything works, then all you're going to do with this O carries over to the rest of the letters. So, but anyway, so just want to get the ball rolling as it will. So all kinds of sports metaphors. Anyway, so let's do it. Let's do lay of the land like we do. So it looks familiar. Again, it's almost 12 inches wide. You've got your outside skin, you got your inside skins and outside skins and the backers here. And again, 2 letters, so just enough for 2. You got your retainers. Haven't done retainers like this, but I'm hoping this will help make them sturdy and easy. And then, keep an eye out for all your little strips here, so don't get those lost. Those will just look like scrap. So just make sure you keep an eye on those. You'll have your inside, the bigger backer jig, and your front sort of semi-temporary ones. Look for these guys too. Another thing that can get lost are these little discs. These are super important. And you got these little switch holders too. We'll go over the power. So all little stuff, keep an eye out for those. Otherwise, you got these internal braces. And again, this is all enough for 2. This is all doubled for 2 letters. You're going to have white Tough-Act. Make sure I put it right here, but mind, which side is the UV out because we don't want it to turn yellow too fast. So I have the usual up here. Make sure you pass that on to, first shop, just look out for our usual little scribe. That'll be inside top. So look for 1/4-inch plates. I've got some, we're going to have to use the small Clecos because we're using the 1/65s. I know I like to use the 3/16. So, what I did is I went ahead and I'm going to do a island fill to bring this down to 1/8 inch where the Clecos are. That way it's a little easier to Cleco. But you'll be creating a sandwich between all the other ones. So it might be hard to get the Cleco to extend fully. So white 063 inserts. Okay, so I'm going to jump all over the place, but just in your mind, if you can remember MedMen, essentially that's where we're going, except the front will be cut out to allow light, right? Because it's face lit. So, but if you can remember, you're going to have a inside main jig, and you're going to have skin that you have to wrap around, and all that. So the O and the D for sure are going to be jungle gyms. Because you can go ahead and put not only will people try to sit here, but they're going to put their foot here, and that's going to allow them to boost up. So people are going to be sitting here. Only the kind of perverted people will want to sit on that. I could see somebody sitting on here. So, but the idea is we need to make these as bulletproof as possible. Of course, we don't need all this if we're building these to go on the side of a building. We would just be welding the return to the backer and throwing them up on the building with some blue screws and we're on our way. But we need to make this bad boy as strong as possible to put up with nonsense. So anyway, that's why we went with 09. Just do the best you can. Like I said, that's why I'm kind of sending the O first anyway. This is going to be the toughest. When you get to the eyes and the ends, it's just going to be more like our monuments. It's just going to be all straight bends. So it's going to be awesome. So whatever you learn from this, you'll apply to the D. But otherwise, hopefully from here, this is the worst. So that's why I'm sending those first, just to get the ball rolling. Anyway, so you got your outside and your inside. So start with your backer here. Get your pieces curved. You've got your seams at the top here and the bottom here, and then the seams are in the middle here and here. And just start working your way around. You'll also have a front jig. So again, keep an eye on your reference kisses. Those are all face out. So, reference kisses, you have your zero, this is a O and then left and then O and then right. It is important because even though these holes are symmetrical to each other and to the rest of the sign, these are justified over a little bit. So the distance from here to here to here is different from here to here and here. So anyway, so really keep an eye out. Even though these are pretty much symmetrical Cleco-wise, so you could theoretically goof up that way, just make sure that you're watching your left and your right based on how you look at it from the face, and then your left and your right as well. So anyway, just keep that in mind. So get your backer ready, get these guys bent, and then start applying your internal jigs. So the way the internal jigs are is you'll have 4 main ones here that will also connect to the returns to give maximum strength, right? So you can see where these holes are here and these holes are here. This will kind of give the rigidity for like a 90-degree turn, like as far as like shear, because so you got to think like if somebody's going to sit right here, they're going to be transferring force straight down and it's going to want to sag, this is going to want to bend. But what happens is this bad boy is going to actually fight that. And then it's going to transfer its load, and all the load has to get to these 4 half-inch bolts here through the 1/4-inch plate here. You see in the blue, that's your 1/4-inch plate there. So essentially, you want to make sure that these are in there good, and these are going to be doing the most work, these 4 main jigs. So you'll have flange down, and you'll have flange up, just like that, and just like that. Part of the reason also the flange goes up is that this will also house the power right here. So you're going to have a power supply and a switch right here. So that's going to live over here, and you'll have your power out, and that's going to line up with power through the sticks. We'll go over power in a second. So anyway, so you have your main jigs here. These are 1, 2, these are 1s and 2s. You bend those up nice. You'll have your power point here where you attach with a rivet. That's your power. So you put those there. Build those either get those in after you put the backer. So I would start with the backer first and then start attaching the returns to the backer only. Maybe. Or does that work? No, you're going to have to put the face one in too. Okay. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to get them in. You have to wrap it around it. So start with the center. You start with the middle first. Cleco both sides, both the face jig and the backer jig. And then maybe from there you put these in, and then you can go ahead and wrap the outside and attach it, that way. But you just don't want to trap. So, but these will Cleco from the back of the back jig right here. And then once those are in, then you can go ahead and put these in. Now these, I don't have a side thing because this is going to be on a curve and who knows how good that's going to be. So all I have it is just barely, I have a 0.01 space right there. So I have this just barely touching, but you're going to want to tack that. So it's going to be similar to this. It's just not going to have any flanges this way. It's only going to have a flange here, but it's not going to have this. But you're still going to want to tack it to the skin where it does touch. Same thing here. I gave kind of maximum space for that to move. So these are the only 4 here that actually have a flange that Clecos to register this thing exactly where it's supposed to be. And then from there, just do your best to keep these at a 90. Go ahead and make sure that these are perpendicular, because where these get tacked will be these holes here need to be sort of accurate, because that's where the white on white attaches. So if these are not, if these are kind of bent a little bit, you might have to adjust these holes a little bit. But anyway, so that's it. So you'll just make sure you tack these to the ribs on the back of there. Make sure they're tacked there and there, and make sure these are in really well. And then probably you'll put this in first though before you tack everything. This is the power holder. So the power supply will be in the letter. Each letter is going to get its own power supply, and it's going to live right in here. So you're going to have a GE, and it's going to have, and you'll see here, this is where the 063 white goes. So you'll have this little pocket. The switch won't be accessible. We're just trying to make these as vandal proof and people monkeying. So, the switch will be inside, but it'll be, not accessible. We're not going to worry about that. So inside this little pocket here, so you go ahead and make sure you get that all lined up. You can just rivet that directly and then rivet that indirectly. And you just rivet on this little switch holder, just a quick little bend. And that little bad boy right there, just bend that up. Cleco it in. You can see the side profile there, and easy peasy. So the way it's going to work for power is that each of these letters is going to get 120 in when they're at the park. So when you're burying, as you know, like when you're burying all this stuff and putting it under a concrete slab, doing 12 volt or 24 volt in is a little pain in the butt because you got to put the power supply somewhere. So at the park, all of these are going to get 120 in, and then each letter will have its own power supply. So whatever you kind of do here will be similar for all the rest of them. But when we're doing the temporary football sled, I'm thinking we're going to have to do some sort of little raceway thing, and it's going to be a little keystone that fits in there. And we're going to actually bypass all of the switch and stuff, and we will hook the 063 white LEDs directly to the keystone, and however many keystones we need. So that way we can just run a power cord to this whole setup, light this up, and then we'll bypass all of our switches and 120 inside until these then go to the park and get installed permanently. Then they will hook up all the power supplies and then get everything fired up the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, so that's that. We'll get that in there. And then the 1/4-inch plates. We want to make sure that the 1/4-inch plates are doing all of the work. So on a lot of this stuff, I gave you plug weld holes because this will just be sort of touching this and kind of flapping there. So where you can get in, go ahead and do some plug welds there. And make sure that these are plug welded really well to this, and make sure that, so the reason why I got Strong Girl here is that you want to make sure that you get wherever this overlaps the green backer, like here and like along here, because this will be where the green backer is here. You want to go ahead and run some good beads, at least here. You want to do at least like an inch here, and you want to make sure you get it here and here, because this is where all the load is going to transfer. If people are standing here or jumping up and down, it has to come through the returns, and it's going to get attached to that, and it's going to work its way through the back plate and get to this bolt. So make sure that these plates get welded, and then I wouldn't say necessarily burn it to the return with full weld, but really make sure, because obviously it'll be all warped and you got to Bondo it. So as usual, it's kind of less is more and more is less. But you want to make sure, just the point is, you want to make sure that this bad boy, all these plates are welded up really good to the backer return. And these are on the inside, just to clarify, they're on the inside of the sign. And then you want to make sure, you want to make sure that's burned there good. That's why I gave the backer plate 2-inch to stick out. So that way you can, you have plenty of point to burn that to the plates. And then the face is only as big as the retainer. The retainer is 1.375. It's 1 3/8. Anyway, but we're concentrating on the back. So get that all taken care of. Then this is a B.F.D. This is a big effing deal. You got to make sure that these little discs get put on the back side of this at some point. It could be done while you're doing all of this. The idea is that when you go to put the backer on, you'll see that you're gonna have a cavity here. So this right here, I'm gonna make it a color right there. Boom. That's the backer, let's say. This is the inside jig. This is your 1/4-inch mounting plate. You're gonna have a void of 090, right? So in order for the bolts to be able to clamp down, we need to make spacers, and that's what these little discs are. The discs are spacers, so that way when we bolt this thing down, it doesn't smash the backer against this and squish that void and cause this to bend. So these little discs are super important. So you just want to make sure that they get put to the back of this. I'm saying you could probably just tack a couple of times around and then clean it up and make sure it's flat. I don't think you need to lords these on. Like I say, Cleco, tack it a few times, make sure it's there. And it's just going to be a sandwich between the bolts and this thing, because you can see where you're just going to have the perimeter frame. As we know, it's going to be 090, and then none of this is going to be touching the backer. So this brings this up. And just in case people don't know, playing along at home, tip means typical when you're doing engineering and things like that. This just means that anytime you see something like this, do that for everything. It's typical. So in case you're wondering. So you know you like my little Lord's blob. So you just want to make sure that you fill the voids between, here and here. Anytime you can put it on these fingers, put a nice big Lord's blob. I thought about doing spacers all the way around. It's not worth it. Plus, time is of the essence. So I figured it's enough to just make sure you put a good blob. So when you go to put the backer on this, you might want to do a 2-man, maybe 2 guys pop lords. So that way there's plenty of lords to go around and you can splooge, and one guy can go around this way and the other way. If that works for you. But like I say, you see all these spots here where you can put that lords to fill up the gap when you go to put the face on. So it's only going to touch here and it's only going to touch there. That's why I didn't put any Cleco holes anywhere, because I didn't want the Clecos to pull this in and warp it. So you want to make sure that back's nice and clean. Also, you want to make sure though that when you do lords this, make sure you put the lords on the circles really well, so that way it sits right there and there. So that's where it'll touch, right there, and then the perimeter. So that's all part of that. So let's see, kind of jumping all over here. So we got these welded in. You got those all taken care of. Make sure the discs get put on the back. You can tack them. That's fine. So now you're good. You have the face in. That's there. You tack that up really well. Let's see. I also put I put plug weld holes. That's what these 3/8 holes are right here, all along here. These 3/8 holes are for plug weld, because this flange will be just the same size as the face flange. So other than getting the gun inside and welding here, you won't have much to weld on here. Inside the teeth, of course, you can weld to the face like we do everything else. You'll weld along there, it's fine. But along here, you won't have much to weld to. So I went ahead and put plug welds so you can kind of plug weld all along the straight parts and then just grind it smooth. Remember that all along this flange and the chatter, just like our Loma Linda monuments, this is all going to be have to be cleaned up because the face sits right on this. So let's talk about the face. So you have the ring in there. You have the face ring. Don't confuse the plug weld holes with, you have 6 total, these bigger holes here. You have 6 total Rivnut holes, and we're going to do that trick where the face is supported by the Rivnuts. So you'll see here I got a little mark right there, and I got a piece right there, and then there's one on the inside right here. So there's 4 across this plane right here, and there's 2 on the outside. So what we're looking for is the steel Rivnut. The steel Rivnut is going to actually attach to the jig, and then it's going to have a clearance hole in the actual flange. So that way the 1/4-inch socket screw, so get your 1/4-inch socket screws ready, and that's going to sit all the way back. So that way the face is almost right there. So when you go to put the retainer on, you can actually bottom it against the screw, but it's going to be right there. It's going to be nice. So that way there isn't too much of a flop. So I actually have this spaced out a little bit. This is our normal 1/4-inch. But when you go to put this retainer on, you can bottom it right up against the screw if you want. Anyway, so keep that in mind. Look for those. We're going to be doing that on all of them, but the O especially right here. This is what we got. So once all this is built and everything, you can do your 1/4-20 steel, and then you'll see the corresponding holes here where the screw will sit right up at the top. So this gives us expansion left and right. It gives us plenty of play to lift. But what that does is give us a nice 3/16 all the way around. You can see where here's the face. So it'll give us a nice 3/16 all the way around. So when you do the retainers, you don't have to worry about clearancing your welds. You should have plenty of clearance there. So that should work out really nice. So let's see. So we got these in there, got those in there, got that. And make sure these are welded up nice. Do not forget those. Oh, half inch aluminum nuts. Go ahead and weld those in. Those will be permanent. So that way the bolt will come from the back, 1/2 inch bolt, boom, through there. For install, I have an idea. My idea is that this is going to be a permanent, and then of course anti-theft. So you're going to put the bolt through. The LED will be out, and then that way you can double nut, and that way tighten it up nice, and then there shouldn't be any way for anyone to back this out because this will be double nutted, so shouldn't go anywhere. And then there's a level of security where not only would they have to rip the face off, rip the retainers off, they'd have to get through the 063 LED to even get to this bolt. So short of just cutting this off and taking it, that we can't do anything about that. So again, the whole idea is these are going to get treated like a jungle gym, but we know that signs aren't jungle gyms, so we're doing the best we can to make it a jungle gym. But anyway, there is only one support at the bottom because we have plates here and here. So there's two. So this is to help support when somebody skits up top and sits there and is like, "Hey, look at me, I'm in INDIO." But otherwise that'll transfer your load this way. But there is, so don't think there's anything missing for these two. So once you get all this like tacked and everything's good and you get these in and everything's like ready to send to paint, then you're going to go ahead and like we do, you're going to just chop these temporary supports out. That way it'll open up the face, and then these rings will then become separate from each other. So, like again, you don't have to use a duck saw. You can use your grinder or whatever you use. And that'll be kind of the final thing you do. And then you kind of clean up everything, and then it'll be ready to go out to paint. So the roller setup, you might have seen this before, but I went ahead and brought in or you have all thread, but I brought these in. So look for them. I ordered them up. They should be here Monday. What you're going to do is just stack these rollers, and you can put them on your table. 7 of them will fit within inside this, but I understand you're not going to be able to run it through a roller or anything. So you can see where that's one of them there. So maybe that'll help you get maybe it's a 2-man job to try to really, but, or if you see some other way to use these rollers, but that's kind of how I see it. That's 1/2 inch all thread. So keep an eye out for these. If you see a box of rollers, like, what the heck's that? Just kind of make a setup like that. So, but it might need some sort of strength more. You might have to create some sort of an arm or something, like a temporary arm that goes over, and you can slide it in just to keep this from bending. So just depends on how heavy this thing is. So and then the retainers. So I thought I'd try this to kind of give it strength and keep it like straight. So you're just going to bend these, and then it's like a hybrid. So instead of having, because I know it's a pain in the butt to weld the entire thing, and then it starts to get all like, boingy and it's hard. So I went ahead and just made these so that way the straights are really straight, and then you're just kind of backfilling the corners there. So I went ahead and added 1 inch to everything, but you get your shorties there, and then they kind of tuck in, and then do the best you can. You have a 1/16 of an inch to play with between this right here. You have a 1/16, so make it work, whatever. The inside one though, there's nothing you can do. I can't help you there, but I did put a little thing here to kind of know where you start. So start it there, obviously on the inside, and then just work your way around. You can kind of pre-bend it, obviously, but that's kind of how this is laid out. Starts somewhere here, you end it here, and then start the other one like you do. So, but yeah, everything has an inch added, so keep that in mind. All right. Well, I think that's it. But again, this is pretty much what's going to happen for the rest of the letters. So kind of go to school on it, get your eye in, see what's up. If there's any issues, let's see what's up quickly, because that way, maybe I can head it off and try something different. So anyway, I think that's it. Give me a call, hit me up if you have any questions.